There are 12 steps that you need to follow if you want to hire A players for your business. And I'm going to walk you through them step by step. But first, my name is Malik. I've bootstrapped 3 companies to 7 figures, and I've built high-performing teams across multiple businesses, from sales to marketing to customer success. Now, I help business owners scale their business from 7 figures to 8 figures by building the right systems and teams so they can get out of the minutia of the day-to-day where they stop working in their business and they can start working on their business. So before you hire anyone, you need to know exactly what you're offloading. Most people think they need a team, but when I ask them, cool, what will they actually do? They don't have an answer. When you start a business, you do everything: sales, customer support, marketing, fulfillment. But at some point, that stops working and you get stuck in low value tasks that eat up your time and slow down the growth of your business. And the way to fix this is simple. You gotta start tracking your time. So for 3 to 7 days, write down everything that you do. Use a notebook, use an Excel sheet, whatever works for you. Most people think that they know where their time is going. But once you actually track it, you'll see exactly what's draining you. Then once you've done that, you step back, you review it, and you ask yourself, what are the repetitive tasks? What are the things that I'm doing that are draining my energy? What keeps me from doing the work that's actually gonna grow the business? If a task makes money, but it drains you, for instance, like sales, you may need to do it for right now before we can offload it. But if it's something repetitive, data entry, scheduling, admin work, that's something that you can offload right away. For example, right now, I'm hiring a creative director and an executive assistant because I know exactly what's slowing me down. It's video editing, copywriting, posting on socials, scheduling meetings, data entry, and recruiting more people. None of that is worth my time. Your time study will tell you exactly who you need to hire. If most of what you need to offload is admin work, then you need an executive assistant. If it's video editing, copywriting, and creative work, then you need a creative director. This is why you don't just hire a VA or a team member. You hire the right person for the right job based on the things that you want to offload. If you want to take this 12-step hiring SOP and actually apply it to your business, you may want to check out my Growth Vault. Inside, I'm sharing all the hiring templates, systems, and resources that I've used to build winning teams. And every week, I keep adding resources that I'm creating to help businesses grow past $10 million in ARR. You can access it for absolutely free using the link in the description. Once you know what you need to offload, the next step is thinking in systems. Most people hire someone and expect them to just figure it out. But that's how you waste time, you burn money, and you end up redoing the work yourself. So instead, break every process into clear steps. Take sales, for example. Sales isn't just one task. It's multiple steps. There's lead generation, nurturing, qualification, closing, and handing off to client success. If you just tell a new hire, hey, go handle sales, they're gonna fail. But if you hand them a structured system, a clear breakdown of what they're responsible for, they can actually execute on it. Same thing with content creation. If I need to offload making YouTube videos, I don't just say I need a YouTube editor. I break it down. There's researching the topic, writing the script, recording the video, editing the video, and uploading and optimizing the video as well. Now I can delegate the script writing, the editing, the uploading and optimizing, and only keep what I can do. This is how you offload faster and much more effectively. So instead of handing off a vague role, you create a clear, structured job with specific tasks. And if you skip this step, you're gonna waste time micromanaging and rewriting instructions and constantly fixing your mistake, which costs time and money. But if you think in systems, hiring becomes a plug and play process. So before you move forward, break down the tasks that you want to offload. Ask yourself, what are the steps? Which ones do you need to keep? Which ones can someone else take over? Now that you know what you're offloading and you've broken it into systems, it's time to create a clear job description. Most people get this part wrong. They post vague things like looking for a VA or need a rock star team member for our team. That's lazy and it attracts the wrong people. If your job description isn't clear, you're gonna waste time filtering through bad candidates. A job description is an ad. It needs to attract the right person. So let's say I need someone who can handle copywriting, graphic design, and video editing. Instead of posting hiring a VA, I'll figure out what the industry specific term is for that role and use that. And for me, it's a creative director. That immediately filters out people who don't fit the role. So before you write the job description, ask yourself, what skills does this person need? What tools should they already know? What kind of personality fits this role? Once I'm clear on that, I'm gonna use AI or a template and refine the description, but I already know exactly what I need because I've done step 1 and step 2. Another mistake that people make is they focus too much on why their company is the best. Nobody cares about you or your company. They care about themselves. Your job description should speak directly to the candidate, helping them see the benefit of working for you. This is why when I write a job description, I really make it benefit driven. When you do this right, the wrong people filter themselves out and only serious candidates apply. So before you post a job, get clear on the role, write a description that speaks to the right person, and treat it like an ad. Once you have a clear job description, the next step is building a hiring machine, a repeatable process that filters out bad candidates and brings in the right ones. Most people wing it. They post a job, they get flooded with applications, they waste hours manually sorting through all that. That's why hiring feels overwhelming. When you have a system, it's smooth and it's predictable. So think of hiring like a sales funnel. A potential hire comes at the top of the funnel, and your system filters out the wrong people at each stage until only the best remains. So here's how I set mine up. There's an application process. That's the first filter. If someone can't follow basic instructions, they're out. Then there's email screening. I'll send a few back and forths via email with key questions. This weeds out people who are lazy or bad communicators. Then there's a skill test, a small real-world task to see if they can actually do the job. Then there's the interviews, and only the best make it this far. This removes 90% of the noise, so I can only spend time talking to serious candidates. Another key part of this is deciding how automated you want this process to be. If you're strapped for time, you can automate parts of this like using Typeform or Google Form to collect applications and auto-filter responses. If I'm hiring for a high volume role like customer support, I'm going to rely a lot on automations. If I'm hiring a high level role like a manager or director, I'll be more hands-on in the interviews. The goal is to create a system that does the heavy lifting for you so you're not manually sorting through a flood of applicants. Now that you have your hiring system set up, the next step is getting applicants. This is similar to generating leads to get customers. You're now just generating leads to get potential team members. Most people post a job and they sit back and hope that the right person applies because the best hires aren't always looking. You have to go find them. And there are two ways to do this. You can do it via paid or you can do it via organic. If you want volume, go paid. That means job boards like LinkedIn, Indeed, or onlinejobs.ph if you're hiring for a overseas role. Running job ads on platforms where your ideal hire hangs out. Hiring recruiters to bring you pre-vetted candidates. If you want quality, go organic. That means reaching out to your network, asking past employees, business owners, or referrals, posting about roles in private groups or communities, or looking at people who are already doing the job somewhere else and DMing them and trying to get them over to your side. For high-level hires, I prefer organic. I don't want a flood of random applicants. I want the right person, and that usually comes from referrals or direct outreach. For mid-level roles or support staff, paid job boards have worked the best for me. But even with the job boards, don't just sit back and wait. Be proactive. Message the candidates who look extremely promising. If you do this right, you'll have a steady flow of great candidates instead of scraping from the bottom of the barrel when you're desperate for help. You never want to be desperate. You never want to hire out of desperation. You want to be in an abundant state so that way you're not hiring the wrong person. Once you start getting applicants, the next step is pre-qualifying them. Just like in sales, you don't want to waste your time talking to unqualified leads. Most people make the mistake of jumping straight to interviews and then they're stuck on calls with people who are a terrible fit. Instead, you need a system to filter out bad applicants before you even hop on a call. So for entry-level positions or support role, I do this over email. I'll send a series of quick questions to see, can they follow directions? How well do they communicate? Do they respond quickly? For higher level roles, I'll skip the email back and forth and I'm just gonna go straight to a 10-minute screening call. This is enough time for me to get a feel for their personality, how they think, whether they actually fit the role. The key here is eliminating bad fits early, so only strong candidates move forward. If someone can't take the time to answer a few emails or they sound completely off in a 10-minute call, they're not worth a full interview. This step saves hours and makes sure that by the time that I'm doing real interviews, I'm only talking to the best people. Once you pre-qualify applicants, the next step is testing if they can actually do the job. Resumes don't mean much. People talk a big game in interviews, but when it comes time to deliver, half of them can't perform. That's why I always do a skill test first. This is simple. Before I spend time on a long interview, I'm going to give them a small real-world task to see how they work. If I'm hiring an editor, I'm going to send them a raw video file and ask them to clean it up. If I'm hiring a copywriter, I'll give them a YouTube video and ask them to write a thread. If I'm hiring a customer support rep, I'll give them a fake customer complaint and see how they respond. This does two things. I filter out people who can't actually do the job, and it shows me who can follow instructions, meet deadlines, and pay attention to details. In my experience, I've had people with amazing resumes completely flop when given real tasks. And I've had people with no fancy credentials crush it because they actually have the skills. If someone can't handle a small test project, I'm not trusting them with my business. So before you move forward, test their skills first. It'll save you from making a bad hire. Once someone passes the skill test, the next step is to do a quick 30-minute screening call to see if they're actually a good fit. At this stage, I'm not grilling them with tough questions. I just want to get a feel for, do I like talking to this person? Do they communicate well? Do they seem reliable and competent? If they're in a customer's facing role, I'll always do a Zoom call to see how they present themselves. If it's more of a back-end role like video editing or copywriting, I might just do a phone call. The goal is simple. I need to know if I feel good about working with this person. I'm not just hiring for a role, I'm hiring for the team. If someone has the skills but has zero energy, they can't hold a conversation, or it feels like a headache to communicate with them, it's a no. This step helps me filter out the weak candidates before I invest more time into deeper interviews. By the end of this call, I should know, am I moving forward with them or are we done here? If there's even a small hesitation, I don't move forward. If it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. If someone makes it past the screening call, the next step is the who interview, a deep dive into their entire work history. This is where I really test if they're the right person. Most interviews are surface level. People rehearse their answers and they say what you want to hear. And you don't actually learn who they actually are. The who interview breaks through all of that. And this process comes from a book called Who? A Method of Hiring by Jeff Smart and Randy Street. And it's one of the best hiring frameworks that I've ever used. Here's how it works. I'm going to pull up their resume and I start at the bottom, their earliest job, and I go one by one. And I ask them, what were you hired to do? This tells me if they actually understood their role and their responsibilities. What accomplishments are you most proud of? A players will have clear wins. If they struggle to answer, that's a red flag. What were the biggest mistakes that you made in the role? I want to see if they take ownership for failures or if they blame others. Who did you work with? I ask about their boss, their coworkers. I want to understand how they function in a team. How would your boss rate your performance on a scale of 1 to 10 and why? This question forces honesty. If they say 10, I'll dig deeper because nobody's perfect. Why did you leave the last job? I look for patterns. If every answer is bad management, that's a red flag. Then I repeat this for every job on their resume until I get to the most recent role. I'll also throw in follow-up questions like, tell me more. Why? What do you mean by that? I dig deeper. This forces them to go deeper. I need to better understand their mindset and where they're coming from instead of giving me polished answers. Most people don't make it past this interview. They either crack under pressure, they give me inconsistent answers, or they reveal red flags. And at this point, that is where I separate the great from the average. If someone can't handle this conversation, they won't handle the job. If they pass, I know that they're the real deal. And this step takes time. But it's worth it because when I hire someone, I don't want them to be here for a few months. I want to hire them long term. Once someone passes the who interview, the next step is simple. Make the offer. But here's the thing. I don't want to rush this. I always wait 24 hours before making a decision. And the reason for that is because after a long interview, your brain is still processing. What feels like a great fit in the moment may not feel the same the next day. You may think of things that they said that you were like, hey, those are red flags. Take a step back. It gives you space to think clearly before committing. Once I know that I want to hire them, I send them a straightforward job offer email. No fluff, no over-explaining, just clarity. And it includes the role that they're going to be hired for, their key responsibilities, compensations and payment terms, start date, and who they report to. It's a scorecard. I don't do long-winded emails trying to sell them on the job. By this point, they're already sold. They know what they're signing up for. I found that the best candidates appreciate clarity and decisiveness. Once they accept the offer, the next step is locking it in with a contract and setting up payment. I keep contracts simple and to the point. They should be clear enough that both sides know exactly what's expected without needing a lawyer to decode it. The contract includes roles and responsibilities, compensation and payment terms, working hours and expectations, and termination terms if needed. If you're hiring internationally, use AI or a legal template to generate a contract that's legally sound for that region. You don't need to overcomplicate this. Just make sure that it's protecting both parties. One thing I do differently is I don't track hours. I track results. I don't care if someone works 10 hours or 2, as long as the job gets done. That's why my contract focuses on deliverables, not time. By the stage, everything is locked in. Expectations are clear, and they're officially part of the team. Now, the next step is making sure they actually succeed. And this is where most business owners drop the ball. Hiring is just the beginning. What happens next determines whether your new hire is actually going to succeed. most business owners drop the ball here. They let go. They did all this hard work and then they just let everything go to shit. They spend weeks finding the perfect person and then throw them into the deep end and expect them to figure it out. That's a guarantee way to waste time, lose good talent, and end up right back where you started. The first 90 days are critical. You need to check in every single day. Make sure that they have the support that they need to answer the questions that you need to answer. Meet with them weekly, a 30-minute check-in to go over wins, roadblocks, and give them feedback. Give clear expectations. They should always know what success looks like in their role. I don't just hire people, I coach them into A players. I recognize their wins, I give them direct feedback, and I make sure they're getting better every single week. If you want someone to stay with you long term, invest in them. People don't leave great jobs, they leave bad leadership. Be the kind of leader that people want to work for, and you'll build a team that sticks with you for years. So don't just hire and hope, lead, coach, build relationships, because a great team doesn't just happen, it's built. And if you do this right, you won't just have employees, you'll have a team that drives your business forward. And that's how you build a winning team.